Here is your article on LinkedIn talking about that. And you've shared this like interesting example from one of the apps from Voodoo. Maybe you can explain to us what do they do here? Hey everyone, this is Roman from Tangent, and today I'm joined by Bojo from GameBiz Consulting. Bojo, a few words about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Roman. As you mentioned, my name is Bojo Jankovic. I work as head of ad monetization at GameBiz Consulting. We're a consultancy firm primarily focusing on the video games industry, but also working with non-gaming mobile apps. We're a team based out of Belgrade, Serbia, and we help mobile app publishers with all sorts of business challenges. Primarily, my team and myself. We're focusing on ad monetization. So we're helping mobile games and apps increase their ad revenue and ad ARPDAU by improving their setups.
Brilliant. And today we'll try to understand the abbreviations like CMP and some other abbreviations, because there are like so many of them now, and whenever I talk with indie developers, they have no idea what it is, and it's getting so complicated. So we'll try to understand all of those new consent rules from Google. So maybe you can start by like explaining what has changed since January 16, 2024.
Absolutely. So January 16, 2024 was the official deadline by which Google said they will start enforcing TCF 2.2 requirements. This means that mobile apps that are showing ads to their users in the European Economic Area and United Kingdom regions, in those areas, starting January 16th, Google said they will require a TCF 2.2 compliant consent string for those users if the publisher wants to show Google ads to those users in these regions. Now, unofficially, even though this deadline wasn't postponed publicly, we do have some information that the deadline, that the actual implementation of these requirements started only on 1st of February. And then gradually it will be rolled out across the board by the end of this month. So January 16th was the official deadline, but nothing really changed in practice. And then between 1st and 29th of February, Google will be enforcing this, will start enforcing this gradually. And by the end of the month, this will be in full force, which means that if a mobile app is not showing a CMP message and is not providing a consent string to Google, they will not be able to show Google ads in these regions.
Got it. Okay, you already answered one of my questions. I was just going to say I haven't seen any drop down in the eCPM for Google in European countries, so it actually makes a lot of sense. So we'll keep monitoring what happens after.
Absolutely.
Can you quickly, again, like I already heard two abbreviations. CMP, okay, this one I already know, but maybe you can quickly explain. And another one is also TCF. Is it correct one?
Yes, exactly. So CMP stands for Consent Management Platform, and it's pretty much a tool that a developer can use to collect consent from their users that will be valid, that will be recognized by Google and other ad providers. Now, TCF is pretty much a consent mechanism or a consent standard which has been introduced by International Advertising Bureau, or IAB, another abbreviation. But pretty much a TCF is, again, this consent mechanism or consent standard, which was introduced by this organization, and which has some minimum requirements that need to be met in order for consent to be considered valid under these terms. And it is pretty much an attempt to have a standardized consent across the industry, right? And so what Google is saying, you have to have this kind of consent in order to keep working with us in European regions. And it can't be a simple Boolean true or false value. Okay, it can't be simple yes or no value. It has to be this string value, which is a TCF. And so this is recognized by Google, but also by many other ad providers in the market. And it's meant to, in a way, standardize and simplify how publishers who are in direct relations with their own players and users, how they're collecting that consent and how they're passing it on to ad providers.
Okay, that's clear. And if they don't do that, then they can say goodbye to the ad revenue from Google AdMob from the users in the EU and UK, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, this is clear. But the CMP should do all of the heavy lifting now, right?
Yes and no. So there are a couple of important aspects of the implementation. What CMP actually does, they are surfacing the message to users where they're asking users for consent, right?
Right.
And so the content of that message, how technically everything works, that is a part of the service that you're getting from the CMP. However, there are some things that still need to be done on the developer side. For example, integration of the CMP has to be done on the developer side because every CMP requires an SDK or software development kit to be integrated into the app, into the code of the app. And this is something that only a developer can do. So this is still a development effort. And then apart from that, you as a developer or as a publisher still need to make some decisions. For example, which providers you will list in the CMP message. How are you going to handle other pop-ups that you may have in your app, such as terms of service, privacy policy, on iOS devices, ATT pop-ups? And even when you're going to surface this message, so even though CMP as a product, as a service, is delivering a lot of the things that need to be done, technically, especially around generating that TCF string, there are many things that need to be considered on the publisher side as well.
Right. So even from our side, I've seen the following use cases. One of them is like whenever a user opts out, developers do not initialize Tangent SDK at all. Right. Or another one is to pass the consent, this yes or no, back to Google, so they would know how to retarget basically this user. Just to say, it seems like it's affecting everything. It's not only the ad monetization, which is like crucial, but other aspects of the
yes, and that's
too.
Yeah, you're completely right. So apart from ad monetization, which is partially affected and will be fully affected by the end of this month, We are also going to see impact on user acquisition. So all publishers doing specific types of Google campaigns that are relying on tracking users post-install, they will also need to provide a consent in order for those users to be tracked after the install, right? And this is where the crucial data comes in order to assess the effectiveness of the campaign, the profitability. So apart from ad monetization, user acquisition is going to be affected as well in these regions. And if you choose to list your analytics tools in the CMP message, and depending on other settings of the CMP message, such as whether or not you're relying on legitimate interest for certain purposes, this is where the complexity kicks in. Like, how are you going to handle other tools apart from ad monetization area and user acquisition area, if depending on, again, whether the user actually gave consent or they didn't give consent, or you're relying on legitimate interest, and so on. So it's not all black and white. It really depends on the implementation as well.
And from your experience, have you already seen the developers starting to treat the EU, non-EU users in a different way? There are like different workflows as they fall, or
so we haven't seen any changes in how, for example, ads are set up, or anything in terms of how these users are being treated by the developers. The only difference is that this CMP message, since it's only required by Google in these European regions, then these messages are only surfaced to users from those regions. For example, for users in the US or any other non-European territory, nothing has really changed. So the flow initially when you install the app has remained the same, while in Europe, developers have changed that initial flow by introducing the CMP message and potentially adjusting other messages that are usually part of this onboarding user experience. So other than that, we haven't seen any changes as of yet.
Okay. But let's take a step back. I hope that would be as easy as implementing the SMP, but it's obviously not. But it's a first step. So I see two scenarios. The first one, let's start with the big guys. They have the legal department, and they'll have plenty of resources. And I've seen already some of the studios introducing their own CMPs and getting certified by Google. Maybe your opinion on, like, is that the way to go for the big guys, to go with your own CMP, or the advice here is to choose something from the list?
So in my personal experience and the research I've done so far, I've only seen a couple of big publishers who have developed their own CMPs and got them certified by Google. And if you're a big company, have hundreds of employees, if pretty much all of your revenues are coming from ads, then you might want to have a full control over this area of your business, and you might develop your own CMP. It's similar, I would say, as when we're talking about ad mediation platforms. Many developers, and actually most of developers, are going to use some of the mediation platforms that are available in the market. But then the big guys, they want to have better control and to know the product in detail and to be less dependent on third parties, and they're gonna develop their own mediation. Similarly with the CMPs, I would say for vast majority of developers, it's not really viable to create your own CMP, because apart from the fact that it's a big development effort, you would need to certify it first by IAB and then by Google. And then, regulations are changing all the time, which means that this wouldn't be a one-off effort, but you would constantly need to monitor what's going on and make sure that you're on top of the latest requirements. So I would say that for 95% of developers, maybe even more, it doesn't make sense to build your own tool. Especially like if you're a small team or if you're not making a lot of money on ads, it's really something that personally I would see as a distraction rather, and I would see more negative sides of going for your own CMP than just choosing what's available in the market. But again, if you're among top grossing publishers out there, then things might be different, and it might make sense to have it as part of products and services that you control fully.
Makes sense. Let's talk about small guys now. So they would prefer, and I'm not sure if there is a way not to prefer, the free solutions, the same thing. But there is one from Google, right? And it is free. What's your opinion? Is it like worth going after the free one? If you're a small team, again, let's limit ourselves to 30 people or no. And yeah, it doesn't make sense to go free, or it's worth spending some money. I'm not sure how much does the CMP cost now and what the price and the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of the CMPs, you're absolutely right. Google offer, like with the announcement of these requirements, Google did offer their own free version of the CMP. And I can say that the biggest benefit, of course, is that it comes free of charge. Because we did a heavy research on the CMP offer in the market, we could see that there are some features, right, that are offered by alternative solutions that come with a price tag compared to Google. So, for example, with other solutions, it's possible to there are more possibilities to customize the message, the actual pop-up. There's options for there are options for A/B testing, different versions of the pop-up. There are more granular reporting capabilities, on a country level, and so on. So there are benefits to choosing a paid solution. Among others, also, like you could have different settings for different countries, which may be more or less important for developers. So I guess it depends a lot on whether or not these additional, let's say, services or features are something that are valuable to you as a developer or not. Another thing that might be worth mentioning is that Google is not providing a lot of customer support around their CMP. It's more like a out-of-the-box solution, which is meant to be used independently by developers, while with paid solutions, you can even have like an account manager who can help you with some questions, dilemmas, any technical issues, and so on. So it really comes down to how much value you put on these additional features that paid CMPs provide. I can tell you that among game-based clients, so we help them implement the CMP to pretty much all of them into more than 36 games by now. And I can say that some of them are using Google free CMP, some of them are using paid solutions. Google can still give really high consent or opt-in rate. So I wouldn't disregard them just like that, even though they are lacking some features. So yeah, I think it really depends on the publisher needs and preferences, even among the small publishers. Of course, budget is an important item for every small publisher, and even for the big guys. So it really depends also on the budget and what your preference is.
But definitely everyone, whether you're small or big, you'll need to invest some time, right? It's not like optional. You need to do that. This is a substantial chunk of money on the table.
Yes, I mean, so that's an interesting point. I think that developers are assessing this effort also from the perspective of their players or user distribution across the globe, right? Because some apps are heavily focused on US and maybe other regions outside of Europe. And then a very minor portion of their users is coming from the European regions, let's say 10%. Okay. Whereas there are others where Europe is more significant with 20, 30, 40% of users. And so these two groups of developers, they're going to assess this with more or less priority, depending on this factor exactly. So if you have 10% of users coming from Europe, and then Google is bringing maybe 20, 30% of that revenue. So that's like a single digit number when it comes to your overall revenue from ads. And then it also depends on how much money of the overall revenue is coming from ads. So, you know, there is complexity to this topic because some publishers may see it as more important than the others, and for a good reason. I would say that, like, if you're let's say a hyper casual developer, so more than 90% of your revenue is coming from ads, and then you have a significant portion of users coming from Europe, say 30, 40%, then this can be a potentially business impacting topic. And then you have the other end of the spectrum where ads are not significant, and then Europe is not significant. And so these publishers are not going to prioritize this topic so much.
Okay, so it's not even about like integrating the CMP right now. It's about like making the strategic decision whether it's important for your business or not.
Yes, exactly. A few factors really need to be taken into account when you know, discussing these topics internally with the teams and deciding whether or not you want to implement it and at which point in time, really.
Super. Let's look at some of the implementations of those pop-ups. I have a couple of examples. I'll share my screen pretty quickly. Here is your article on LinkedIn talking about that. And you've shared this like interesting example from one of the apps from Voodoo. Maybe you can explain to us what do they do here. I'm not sure if I can zoom in it. Yeah, this is going to be better.
Yes. So one of the reasons why we decided to highlight Voodoo's implementation in that article that you mentioned is that they were one of the examples in which a CMP message was actually combined with let's say other pop-ups that might appear for the user. And so by merging those pop-ups together, I think the intention there was to make sure that you have as few pop-ups as possible for the users to try to reduce that friction point. And for pretty much, instead of showing terms of service and then privacy policy and then CMP and then on iOS ATT pop-up, so 4 different pop-ups, I think the intention here might have been to reduce the number of pop-ups altogether, merge what can be merged within one solution, one pop-up, and in that way reduce friction points and percentage of installs that would actually you know, quit the game at the very start. One more thing that I think is interesting to highlight here is that, for example, for terms of service, you really have to agree if you want to proceed to the game, whereas the CMP part of the message, so the personalized ads part of the message, no matter what you choose, so whether you opt in or you opt out, you will be able to proceed to the game. And so, this says a bit about what's obligatory, what's not obligatory, and how it can be implemented. And another reason why this implementation is interesting is because France, where Voodoo is originally based out of, has become one of the more strict countries when it comes to requirements around privacy, around personalized ads, and what choices are given to users. So it was interesting to see how a company based out of France is dealing with this topic, and that's why we decided to highlight it in this article.
How many pop-ups do they have, like in total, with this one?
So this is just one pop-up where they merge terms of service, privacy policy, and a traditional CMP message, and then that's pretty much it on Android when it comes to these pop-ups regarding regulation. And then on iOS, we also have ATT pop-up, so pop-up that enables developers to collect IDFA if the user decides to opt in. So on Android, it's just one. On iOS, it's two.
That's a very elegant solution. Do you know that's something that people can do like with Google as a CMP?
This is not really possible as of now with the Google CMP because you can't really customize it a lot. So you wouldn't be able to include specific language that you would probably want to around your terms of service, right? But maybe that changes in the future. Maybe Google gives a little bit more options along those lines. But as of now, if you're using Google, you can't really merge your existing, let's say, terms of service pop-up with the CMP message that comes out of box from Google.
Okay, got it. But is it something standard that people can expect from other like paid CMP solutions?
I think that when it comes to paid solutions, it's something that's more flexible and more probable that they have this option. As of now, there are dozens of CMP solutions, so I can't speak for all of them. But for sure, I know that some of them are allowing these customizations that would allow developers to actually merge the pop-ups.
Got it. Yeah, thanks so much. Last question. What are the most common issues or things that people overlook when they integrate with CMPs?
I think that observing the implementation over 3,000 games and apps so far, we've seen a few scenarios. I would say that one thing that people overlook is assessing which ad partners or ad providers or vendors should be included or listed in the pop-up itself. Okay. And so, for example, we've seen cases where they're listing hundreds of these partners, even though they are not directly working with them, and even though they are not generating a significant portion of a developer's revenue, right? And there are some downsides in including more partners than you absolutely need. I won't go into details just because it can be a complex topic. But in general, I think that publishers should focus only on the most important partners that should be listed in the CMP. And this is something that we've seen is not always the case also by assessing implementations of some other games that are in the market. Apart from that, I think that localization is important. Sometimes we see that developers forget to localize the pop-ups into available languages across Europe, which can have a negative impact on the opt-in rates because users don't really understand what's going on. And then I think that for certain publishers, it might make sense to differentiate their solutions depending on which country the user is coming from, just to make sure that you're compliant with all local regulations. So I think that maybe these would be just a few things to name at this point.
Yeah, again, like it's crazy. Like it's another layer of work for poor developers. Even you said opt-in rates. You need to keep track of another opt-in rate.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that things are getting especially tricky for smaller developers. If you're just trying to break even, this is another factor that adds to complexity of things that you need to handle in order to be successful.
Right. That's it. Thanks so much, Bojan. That was really helpful. I learned so much. There is really not many resources where we can read about that, and you're one of the few people that talk about it. So thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity. It was a pleasure.
We'll leave all the links to GameBiz Consulting into the description of this video. We'll add the article that I shared. Give us a like if you like this conversation and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much. Have a good one.